Fini danser belle, fini danser belle.
Aïe, nanano, fini danser belle.
Fini danser belle, fini danser belle.
Aïe, nanano, fini danser belle.
Fini danser belle.
Aïe, nanano,
Fini danser belle.
aïe, nanano,
Fini danser belle.
aïe, nanano, fini danser belle.
Fini danser belle, fini danser belle.
Aïe, nanano, fini danser belle.
Fini danser belle, fini danser belle.
Aïe, nanano, fini danser belle.
Maman mwen pe danser.
Oui, nanano,
Papa mwen pe danser.
oui, nanano,
Se mwen pe danser.
oui, nanano, aïe, nanano, fini danser belle.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue. Welcome to Tout, Bagay, Patwa. Our own Trini Patwa show showcasing our Trini Creole culture, language, music, and history. And we hope to be doing shows like this in the year 2021. At least once a month, or it is my hope that my director slash cameraman slash creator would be able to get us to do at least 3 or 4 shows for the month. And he's laughing at me right now. Right, so for further information on when our shows will be, you can check out Trinidad Patwa Speakers on Facebook. And this first show, in keeping with the season of Christmas, is going to be on Kwèch. What is Kwèch? And to give us more insight into Kwèch, we have our special guest from Maraval, the Maraval Folk Group, and the group is represented with me, sitting with me right now. I have Miss Claudette, Sinet, the other members are there waiting to come on. So I would just like to welcome you to our set. Bienvenue, madame. And we will be hearing much more from Claudette and the Maraval Folk Group later on in the show. All right. So, Mr. Director, I know that you have to be on the show. Before I put you on to Monsieur Director, I just want you all to know a bit more of the show, language, culture, history. And one of the things we have in Trinidad that is part of us and we seem to be losing it is proverbs. You know, a lot of young people, you tell them things in proverbs and idioms and they have no inkling what it is. You know, so we would like to include Trini proverbs in our show, and to do our Trini proverb, I'm passing you on to our Patwa teacher, researcher, Mr. Namdi Hodge.
Okay, so our first proverb of our first show is the following. So let's say it together. C'est les vents qu'avante, moun kawe, la peau poulet. C'est les vents qu'avante, moun kawe, la peau poulet. Which means you only see the chicken skin when the wind is blowing. So you see people choose colors under pressure or in hard times. Our lesson today will be the months of the year in Patwa. So Michel, dis après moi.
Oui.
Janvier,
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 février,
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 mars,
mars,
avril,
avril,
mai,
mai,
juin.
juin,
Again, janvier,
janvier,
février,
février,
mars,
mars,
avril,
avril,
mai,
mai,
juin.
juin,
Juliette,
juillet,
août,
août,
septembre,
septembre,
octobre,
octobre,
novembre,
novembre,
décembre.
décembre,
Juliette,
juillet,
août,
août,
septembre,
septembre,
Octobre,
Octobre,
Novembre,
Novembre,
Décembre.
Décembre.
Now to ask somebody, what month were you born in? You ask, en qui mois vous faites?
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 The response, moi fête en.
Moi fête en.
So Michel, en qui mois vous faites?
Moi fête en février.
Moi fête en avril. Moi presque oublié. Moi fête en avril. Okay, so back to you, Michel.
Oui. So as part of our shows, other than the proverbs, we would actually have Patwa lessons on featuring different topics. We decided to do the months of the year. Namdi, I believe some of the songs that we have coming up, or the clips that we have coming up, we have the months of the year mentioned.
Yes.
Right, good. So it would be nice if our viewers would listen and see if you could pick up any of the months of the year in any of the clips that are coming up. All right, so we have this video by Mr. Kenneth Romain speaking Creole, right, or Patwa, speaking about the Kwèch tradition in Paramount.
Ah oui, cantique de Noël, du cas qu'on Kwèch. C'est vieux monde longtemps. En parmi il pas tenu parents. Nous pas connaître rien contre parents pagnol. Nous te connaître cantique de Noël. Kwèch. C'est vieux monde là, l'air où est novembre arrivé, septembre, octobre, novembre. Donc a commencé à chanter Kwèch. Tout le monde tini, tous ces noms là tini les vieux. Là où est novembre arrivé. Donc a commencé à aller à Kai, camarade, yon a l'autre. Chaque fois c'est 9, 10 moun nom qui a chanté ensemble. Donc a aller à Kai, tout le monde, tout Dio. Donc a venir à Kai moi à présent. Yo que resté là, yo un éditeur, deux éditeurs, trois éditeurs. Chaque fois là yo commencé chanter. Chaque fois 6h, 7h au soir. Yo samedi au soir. C'est dimanche bon matin. Moun ka aller la caillou. Toute la nuit, yo ka chanter. Chaque fois toute caille où vivez en dedans. Ou ka trouver quelque chose pour manger, ou ka trouver pain et puis jambon, ou ka trouver un soupe. Ou que trouver chaque bagaille, ou que trouver café Noël, ça ka pêcher ou dormi. Ou ka chanter Kwèch, ou ka chanter Kwèch. Et puis madame yo connaît, yo ka vini, yo ka préparer yo ti bagaille pour yo manger. Peut-être c'est pas en pile, mais chaque caille où vivre en dedans, ou ka trouver un ti bagaille pour manger. Ou ça dit oui toute la nuit ka chanter. Moi, je chante un petit Joseph. Plus ça, c'est celle cantique. Moi, je chante un petit Bagay. Sans livre.
Okay, sans livre.
Le cas chanter cantique, ou obligé de tenir un livre. Quoi? Plus, c'est français. C'est plus français. Hein? Joseph, mon cher fidèle, cherchant à logement. Lève-toi, pressé ma père, à mon accogement, le sentier la veille, auquel le temps passé, les chefs de la comédie, le temps de l'air, les chefs de la comédie, les pères chiés promis. Si vous tenez un livre, vous avez chanté plus.
And we are back with Miss Florence from Marval, representing a Marval folk group, I believe. Yes, the Marval folk group, to tell us more about Kwèch. So, Miss Claudette, the average Trinidadian, I myself included, had no idea what Kwèch was. When we hear Kwèch, what is Kwèch?
Christian Marval is a genre of music. It's all about Christmas, it's all about the birth of Christ, and it's intertwined with church. So that at Christmas time, you would have the crèche set up, the crèche that they put up with the manger and Jesus and
The
birth.
nativity scene.
Right, the nativity scene, but we call it crèche. So you would have the crèche set up, and as the season opens with Christmas, you would then sing crèche, which are carols about the birth of Christ, the coming of Jesus, the Advent, the actual birth, and so it would all be about the Christmas season. But it's called crèche, so it's really a genre of music. It's inherited from our French days, because remember at one time Trinidad, although it wasn't a French colony, we were very Frenchized.
Yes.
So that's
Frenchified.
Yes, we were Frenchified as well. And so the music came with the people who came from Guadeloupe and Martinique and who settled in Marval, and it remained handed down by ear. Right? So we just sang what we heard, and each new generation would sing what they heard. So sometimes there are slight variations in the music based on the people's ear. But that's what it was. It's a genre of music that was sung. As children growing up in Marval, it's what was sung. When we said that we were going to parang, we didn't know anything about singing Spanish. Paranging meant going from house to house. So that's what it meant us. And as children, Christmas Day, we got the opportunity, because you had freedom to go from house to house on Christmas Day. And so we would plan all through the season whose houses we were going to visit, and we knew exactly who to go to, because who would give you what and where you would get more refreshment. And so you would arm with your bag, and we would make instruments. So most likely the boys would get mouth organs for Christmas. That's the band. And we would make tom-toms. A tom-tom is made from a milk pan, fern leaf or whatever, milk, and you get the tire rubber and spread it over it, and you tie it down tight and you mix. So you prepare yourself. And we would make our own maracas from bolies, and we would prepare. So Christmas Day, we're ready to go. Tom-tom, mouth organ, and boli. We go into parang.
So when you say parang, as you see, it was not sung in Spanish. What was the language? What is the language
we
of
were
Kwèch?
singing crèche, it's in French.
It's
and
in
that's
French.
what we sung. So it's only when we were exposed to other communities we realized, parang is something else. But in Marval, parang was crèche.
But from what you are telling me, I can see that there are parallels with the parang.
There are parallels,
And
yes.
and as you just explained, you sing about the birth of Christ and all these things. Just like in parang, where you have the nacimiento and the annunciation and all these different things.
Yes.
So it's basically the same thing.
The same story, yes.
Same story, but in French.
In French.
In French, right?
Sung in Patwa.
So, I understand. It was Patwaized French.
Yes, it was Patwa.
Yes, like my French, because I can't pronounce French properly. All you should hear Namdi trying to get me to pronounce some French just now. It's awful! Butchering people's language.
It's not butchered, it's just...
As you said, when you were a child, you all would go from house to house, paranging, which was really singing Kwèch. What about nowadays? Is it the same?
It's same, but it's different in that you don't have the freedom to visit homes as we used to. And also children don't have that kind of freedom. On Christmas Day, parents just let you loose, because everybody in the community knew you, and they knew where you were going, even when you disappeared. And it didn't matter how far you went. A parent, a neighbor would be a parent. So it's, you do that wherever you went, you're still on your P's and Q's, because guess what? The message would reach home before you.
And we had no cell phone, but before you get home,
it would reach before
your mother
you.
would know all who you didn't say good morning to and all whatever waiting for you. So I think it's the same thing now with the parang and everything else. Society has changed, so we don't have that, we can't socialize.
The freedom to socialize.
It's not there anymore, and then, to top it off, now we have this COVID. But nowadays, within the time of quarantine and COVID, how are you all coping? How is the Kwèch singing being done? How are you adapting to the situation?
It's very subdued. You're doing it now in your own homes, and you're very wary of who you invite. So you're going to be careful, and the fortunate thing is that there are some Kwèch records, so you can put it on and put up the volume really, really loud, and that way you're
Right.
sharing it with your neighbors. Or you can always sing outside.
But you just mentioned the Kwèch records. The Marval folk group. The Marval folk group, you all have recordings of these Kwèch songs.
There was a recording made, one recording very many years ago, but it's still alive and kicking.
Well, I would hope that our director could get us to some of that. All right, so we're moving on now. He's given me the sign. So we're moving on now to a Lomax audio interview. Mr. Alan Lomax, and I have to get this word right. Namdi was practicing with me. Ethnomusicologist, who interviewed the Marval Kwèch group in 1962. So let's take in that audio.
Yes, Lewa, as the name goes, it's the Feast of the Kings.
What's the name?
Lewa,
Lewa.
which means the Epiphany or the Feast of the Kings. Well, you will usually find that the people call it at the end of Christmas, which is the 6th of January. As I mentioned before, when you find that Kwèch starts around All Saints time, it is November. And within that time, between November and December, usually you will find that one person around Christmas would hold a main Kwèch. They get one home, whereby they go singing there weekly, maybe for 5-6 weeks. And the end of it now would be the 6th of January, which is called Lewa. During that night, I should say the previous night, they'll hang all type of fruits. Cocoa, oranges, Portugals, and all type of fruits around the house, bananas and all that. And on the 6th of January, which is Lewa, what you call it at midnight, they call it, they'll be breaking up the Kwèch then. And the people go around, in festive mood at midnight, they hang all the oranges, but sometimes they even look for plants. Cocoa, the cocoa they would plant it as a souvenir. Some people would get bananas to eat, the oranges, they might even suck the oranges, but the seeds they're going to plant it. They usually keep that as a souvenir. And that would be what we call the end of Christmas for them, which is midnight on the 6th of January.
Are there any, is there anything special that happens at midnight?
No, it is to say, the most special thing I would say, they remain about a whole hour jumping and dancing. Just to say, Christmas end, let's hope it come back again as soon as possible.
What kind of dancing do they do? What kind of music?
With their voices. Or just keep singing and, dancing up with it.
Well, could we have one of these dancing songs?
Yes, sure, we could.
Let's hear one of those right now. How about it? Who knows one?
No.
You said the breakup of Christmas, eh?
Breakup of Christmas.
Christmas breakup.
Christmas breakup have to be.
Oh, Tina, where you been?
But this,
No,
you wasn't saying out a book to
breakup
dance
of
with, would
Christmas
you?
should be
Let's sing one out, that's not in a book. One of the dancing ones. How about it?
And you'll get this one in the book.
It will be the book, we will hardly follow the book.
I'll hardly follow the book, but it will be in the book. We'll have on every level.
If you follow it, it's better.
Yes.
If it's sound better,
We'll sign about it. Follow the book, but
Yes, follow the book. And we'll put our own
Well,
bacchanal business.
all the voices together and follow the book.
Everybody sing together.
Everybody sing together.
Son? Good.
Welcome back. So now we are actually going to have the Marval folk group doing for us, and forgive my French, Le Dieu du ciel, or as I would patrify it and say, l'idée du ciel.
Qui, Dieu n'est pas de vie,
forte, votre rédemption. Cherchons à logement, à mon accouchement, je sais les fruits de vie, ces chers enfants des cieux, qui tous les saints de vie, papa restanouillé, qui tous les saints de vie, papa restanouillé. Ah, berger, sommeillez, sommeillez, berger, sommeillez tout. Ah, 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 berger, sommeillez, sommeillez, berger, sommeillez tout. Que n'a tout vous ce que j'avoue. Ah, berger, sommeillez tout. Les bouées fistées, des rêves partout. Ah, berger, sommeillez, sommeillez, berger, sommeillez tout. Ah, 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 berger, sommeillez, sommeillez, ah, berger, sommeillez tout. Les bouées fistées, des rêves partout. Ah, berger, sommeillez tout. Enfin, les corps tremblent et nous. Ah, berger, sommeillez, sommeillez, ah, berger, sommeillez tout. Ah, berger, sommeillez, sommeillez, ah, berger, sommeillez tout.
Yes. Well done, Marval folk group. And I wasn't paying attention and to what I'm supposed to do and minding other people's business. And I introduced the wrong song. So when I said Le Dieu du ciel, l'idée du ciel, wasn't that. So now we have our video subtitled in English, L'idée du ciel, Patwaized.
And French too, French too.
And in French, of course, Les Dieux du ciel. Claudette and Diane. And. Oh, okay. Well, look, the Mr. Director, now tell me what it is. Say your Bagay Patwa concert.
You singing too?
Oh, yes, I singing too. He now remind me. So I'm there. All right, so I'm going to see me.
Chanté Gloria, Gloria, in excelsis Deus. Gloria, Gloria.
first experience actually singing Kwèch, because as I mentioned before, I myself, like the average Trinidadian, had no idea what Kwèch was. And it was a beautiful experience. So now, coming up next, we have a video with Mrs. Marcia Montano Roper speaking about Kwèch and her mother, Morella Montano.
Bonjour tout le monde, la bonne nouvelle. Après ça, moun ka vle me parler et puis maman moi. Kwèch is the traditional music that we sing around Christmas time. So, my early memories, of course, is from my mother. You're hearing them practicing in the background, but my early memories started from my mother, and I remember Christmas morning. The early bands would be coming, people from Paramin, people from Marval, and they would be singing a number of songs. One of them would be Arise and Open the Door. That's going to be in English. However, one of the songs that I truly remember is Joseph Moshe Fidele, Shaushana Lojema. And basically, this song was saying, Joseph, my dear husband, let us find a lodging, a place where we can go and have this baby. So the tradition is, as I said, we call it Kwèch, but it's really Crèche. And the background is that when the French came, they came and settled in different parts of Trinidad. They settled in Marval, Paramin. And that's why that tradition continues, not only in terms of the language, but in terms of the song. So you see me here with a book. This is the Kwèch book. And these were the books, or they're carol books, that were brought by the initial settlers into the area, and they're prized possessions. So traditionally, to sing Kwèch, of course, you can sing it by memory, but the unique and interesting thing about Kwèch is that it is written in French, and the songs are sung by non-French speakers who may have a little Patwa background, and they are singing these Christmas carols. So, or Kwèch, or cantique, as they're called. So, I wanted to talk a bit about my mom, who passed around 19 years ago. She's the one that really initiated the revitalization of Patwa and singing Kwèch. So this group is very, very old. We traveled across the Caribbean. We are the only group right now that has an original cantique or Patwa singing record. What else do you want me to talk about? So we're going to be doing a number of songs. The group, I gave a brief background, where we have traveled, what we have done. There was a time when the group comprised of over 40 people, 40 very young kids and very old people who have moved on, and we are just continuing this tradition of singing and, sharing what we do at Christmas time.
Okay, so now we are going to experience more Kwèch music, beautiful music. From the Marval folk group, we have Claudette and Diane singing 2 songs, and then we're going to have Mr. Kevin Swift performing a song. I hope I get the pronunciation correct. I don't know if it's Alele Moi Voisin or what it is, but so we're going to experience 3 songs. So let's hear it for them. Claudette, Diane, and Kevin.
Allons ensemble, profond de la vallée, vas-y les choses, bénis nos traits, sauveur, sauveur. Allons ensemble, profond de la vallée, vas-y les choses, bénis nos traits, sauveur. Les dieux du ciel qui descendent trôner, qui descendent.
mon voisin, le sauveur de la terre, est enfin parmi nous, mon voisin, envoyé de son père, mon voisin.
Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche.
Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Veillons sur mon troupeau, mon voisin, autour de ce village. J'entends en air nouveau, mon voisin, et du plus beau langage, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Rempli d'étonnement, mon voisin, je laisse ma houlette pour que le Dieu descend, mon voisin, qu'annonçait le prophète, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Dans l'admiration, mon voisin, entrant dans les tables. J'adore ce poupon, mon voisin, mais Jésus est ineffable, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin, allez mon voisin à la crèche, mon voisin. Merci, Ampit.
Okay, I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. I heard them sing one song that I know, the only one song that I know. I don't know anymore. And I'm hoping in the future to learn some more. So joining us via Zoom now, we have Cassandra Joseph and her grandmother.
Mother.
Her mother? Oh yes, her mother, yes. Her mother, Mrs. Mildred Joseph, to talk about Kwèch and to talk about Mr. Bertrand Joseph. And from what I gathered, I believe Nambi, he's like the Kwèch man in Parliament. Was the Kwèch man in Parliament. So welcome, Boswell. All right, well, we'll have to try again in a few minutes. Unfortunately, we weren't able to connect with her, so they're going to try, the technical team is going to try to remedy that problem. So we'll have to move on. So we have a video in the meantime. We have Mr. Richard Mendez of the, I have to take my time to say this again too, Parameninos Parent Group from Paramin, and Mr. Director, you didn't tell me if he's going to do a Kwèch song or a Parent song.
Speaking about Kwèch.
Okay, so he's also going to enlighten us about Kwèch.
Musique Kwèch, tout le monde croit Paramin c'est un village paran. Ça pas vrai. Les moi étaient petits, pas ni Pierre Parent à Paramin, ni Kwèch à Paramin. Kwèch c'est yo ka prier en français cantique de Noël. Ça c'est en anglais, Christmas carols. Mais yo ka chanter ça en français et puis à Patwa. Yo ti livre Martinique moi quoi yo livre yo collection cantique par yon nom yo ka prier Loulou Bois la ville. Yo ka servi ti book là, comment on ka dit book? Du livre ça. Et puis yo ka chanter tout ces comment on dit Christmas? On a dit
Noël.
On a dit ça cantique de Noël, oui. So toutes ces Noël, moun ka marché tout partout à toutes ces la caille moins, la caille où et puis yo ka chanter cantique de Noël, Kwèch. Mais pas ni moun qui connaît ça. À présent, pas ni moun qui connaît ça, Kwèch moi ni yon de ti mamay, yon ti ban. Nous avons fait toute qualité de musique, nous avons fait parang, nous avons fait Kwèch, nous avons fait calypso. Et puis, yo ka chanter Kwèch, mais pas ni un pile monde qui a chanté Kwèch. Après ça.
Levez-vous, mon voisin, les sauvés de la terre, en foi parmi nous, mon voisin. Tous les sauvés de la terre, non, allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, à la Kwèch, mon voisin. Allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, à la Kwèch, mon voisin. Allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, à la Kwèch, mon voisin. Allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, à la Kwèch, mon voisin. On démanquait des coups, mon voisin, et trouvé de la terre. S'il souffre, c'est vous, mon voisin. Nous ensemble, la faute, mon voisin. Allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, allez, mon voisin, à la Kwèch, mon voisin.
Okay, so we have sorted out that technical problem. So we are back now with Cassandra and Mildred.
Yes, you are hearing me now?
Yes, Mildred, I'm hearing you. Bonsoir, bienvenue. Comment vous êtes?
Muy bien, merci.
Right, yes, so we have a bit of Patwa there. So, Mildred, as you know, the topic this evening is Kwèch. And as someone from Paramin, I assume that you would have quite a lot of experience with Kwèch. Could you tell me more about your experience with Kwèch?
Yes.
When you were a child and as opposed to now?
From in the 60s, growing up as a child, we used to go house to house. That was the parang. That was the Kwèch parang.
Right.
And we used to dress up like in white and red with little candles and go in at the people's houses. They used to have the nativity, some of them at their house. And we used to go to them and sing Christmas carols.
Well, from what I'm hearing, and from my first interview with Miss Claudette, more and more, I think we could compare Kwèch to actual Spanish parang and caroling, because that is what it sounds like you all do when you go paranging, and singing Kwèch songs. It's like caroling. That's in essence, that's what you are doing, not so?
That is how it was.
Right, and also from my experience with parang, because as I said before, growing up, I didn't know about Kwèch. In my heritage, it was parang. Because my father was from Lupino, so that's what we grew up with. But from what I'm hearing, it's basically the same thing, just different language. Yes. And I know with the parangers, they would expect coffee and ham and pastel and things like that. Is it the same kind of preparations one would make to welcome Kwèch singers?
Yes, we would have the same thing.
All right, so going from house to house.
Yes.
You talk about what you used to do in the 60s. What about the children now in Paramin? Are they exposed to Kwèch like
no.
before?
No, they don't do that anymore.
So it's not passed on in any way, either through school or church or anything?
Yes, and in the church, they usually go, they have their group.
But it's not as prevalent as before?
It's not as prevalent as before.
Unfortunately.
Now, like, they're not interested in that, so to speak.
What do you think that this is something that should be passed on to the children and grandchildren in Paramin and Maraval?
It should be.
One of the things I wanted to ask Claudette when she was here, you know, my director now come and interrupt me and make me forget what it was I was going to say. I forget. Old age. Yes, he just interrupted me.
But as I said, we used to dress up like little angels with the candles from house to house. And sometimes now with the older folks, they used to have their own group, and we used to go with them.
All right.
And they used to sing it in Patwa.
Okay.
The Christmas carols, which is the Cantique de Noël.
Right. And now remember what it was I wanted to ask. Besides Paramin and Maraval, do you know of any other communities when you were younger who would practice the singing of Kwèch songs?
No.
Because from what I'm gathering, it has been concentrated or really lived on mainly in Paramin and Maraval.
Yes, it was mainly in Paramin and Maraval.
Wow,
I don't know any other place.
Okay. All right. So Mildred, thank you so much for taking the trouble to join us and for enlightening us and sharing your experiences with Kwèch. Thank you so very much. Merci.
Thank you.
Ayo.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, so next we have Claudette and Diane and Kevin, I believe. Yes, they're going to sing some more Kwèch music first. All right, so we're waiting for them to set up and start.
Hola, bonne nouvelle qui vient nous annoncer. En Marie et Vierge, on savait nous être. Tous les bergers en fête ont quitté les troupeaux, chantant des chansonnettes et des îles et chalumeaux. patois pour nous. Nous n'y pour passer pour ces jeunesses là tout. Bayola vini et si longtemps ça c'est vrai. Moi ça va dire ni bayolou ka chanter. C'est longtemps nous ka parler patois nous. Qui te nous connaît, nous ça chanter tout. Qui te nous connaît, nous ça chanter tout. C'est longtemps nous ka parler patois nous. Qui te nous connaît, nous ça chanter tout. Qui te nous connaît, nous ça chanter tout. Oh yeah.
Merci en pile tout le monde. I hope you all have enjoyed our introductory show. As I said before, we are hoping to have some more in 2021. And we would like to hear from you, what in Patwa you would like to learn, what you want to say, your experiences in Patwa. And before we end today, I would like to thank Monsieur Director, Mr. Nandi Hodge, for creating the show. I would like to thank Mr. Ayinde Burgess. I will be saying his name all the time because I find it such a beautiful name. Mr. Ayinde Burgess, thank you so very much. Merci en pile. And Mr. Kevin Swift, also part of our technical team. So let's hear it for our technical team. And Mr. Nandi Hodge. And thank you, our audience, for giving us your time. Again, please, we really want to hear from you. And please excuse all our little mistakes and whatever, you know. The show is not supposed to be anything stringent. It's just for us to have fun and to introduce you to our Trini Patwa and to get you all excited for next year. Not so, Monsieur Director.
Sawi.
So we're looking forward to 2021.
Yes.
Okay, so this is where I say ayo.
Nous Akarasi vite, akarasi do, akarasi vite, bon, akarasi le, bon, akarasi do, akarasi vite, bon, akarasi do. Tous les bergers en fête, ont quitté les troupeaux, chantant des chansonnettes et des îles et chalumeaux. Akarasi vite, akarasi do, akarasi vite, bon, akarasi do, akarasi vite, akarasi do, akarasi vite, bon, akarasi do.
Bonne nuit tout le monde.
Toto, qui moun qui la ouvre la porte moi. C'est moi l'amour et puis tigita moi. Non tigita moi. C'est Waltz the Beverly. Waltz the Beverly. C'est les charmes de l'amitié. Waltz the Beverly. C'est les charmes de l'amitié. Mouais di doudou, j'aime ouais, qu'a fait moi mal. Mouais di doudou, j'aime ouais, qu'a fait moi mal. Mouais di doudou, j'aime ouais, qu'a fait moi mal. Il est pas moi, ouais ça bien moi, si moi bien plaît. Il est pas moi, ouais sabemos.